The board exams have come to an end, and I totally agree that this is a huge accomplishment. But please remember that the NEET exam is hardly a month away, and it is always considered that the last month as a NEET aspirant is either your making phase or your breaking point. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing as many tips which I feel is necessary to be put out there in order to get you back into that zone as a NEET aspirant. So on to the video we go. Alright, so we all know how important it is to give mock tests in this last month, but what not many people talk about is the first few tests which you start giving after your board exams. They can be really demotivating. Like you suddenly see that you've lost your speed, you suddenly realize that you're making a lot of silly mistakes, you're going wrong in concepts which you thought you had mastered, and you're forgetting how to maintain the OMR bubbling method. So all in all, you see yourself lacking in a lot of factors. But the advice which I should give here to you is take it stepwise. In the first test itself, don't try to master all of the things you are going wrong in. Like for me, even though during the board exam season, I was very NEET oriented and I tried to solve as many papers as I could, the next day after my board exam, when I went to my coaching institute to give the tests, I realized that I was lacking in everything. Things which I thought I was good at were going wrong. And the first few tests were very bad. I tried to increase and come back to normal at once. But that didn't work out. Don't look at the marks, but don't try to master everything in one test. That is why there are so many tests available. So every day, work on one factor. Maybe the first few tests which you give, try to improve on the silly mistakes. The next 3 tests on concepts which you know but don't remember, and then work on your speed. Go stepwise, and when you're using the chunking method and you're categorizing things, you will see your improvement and you will feel motivated. It is certainly the time to solve tests every single day, and the timings are really important as well. If you are going to a coaching institute wherein they're taking tests in the morning and not 2 to 5:20, then once you come back home, make sure you're productively using that time. At least try to solve a test or a worksheet during that time. Try not to procrastinate, because I know of people who for 2 years didn't put a lot of effort, were not NEET oriented, but in the last 2-3 months for NEET, they attended crash courses and they really analyzed the mock tests and they ended up doing really well. And I also know of certain people who were consistent for 2 years throughout, but in the last month after the board exams, they fell into a kind of slump where they just didn't want to put in the efforts because they were just tired of everything that they had done for the boards. So they ended up not doing that well. So please maintain the focus and just keep going. And even though I just mentioned that it is important to give extra tests because it will help you improve your speed, it is not necessary to solve all the questions. So I consistently attempted a mock test every single day. Apart from that, I had a lot of question papers. I selected a few questions from every section, went through the paper, and instead of attempting everything, I looked at the solutions. Because remember, you have to become exam oriented right now. It is not necessary for you to understand the concepts for everything. So instead of taking time to solve all the 200 questions, attempt maybe 50 out of the entire paper, but look through the rest of the questions. And whichever one strikes out, you can go back and look deeper into it. Another thing which I feel is important to share is stick to what you have learned. Maybe you are not thorough with all the chapters of every single subject. Don't go behind those concepts. There are certain chapters which you might be amazing in. Strengthen those. But what I would say is try to watch one-shot videos of those chapters so you'll at least get a gist of the chapter and you'll know what kind of questions they'll ask. And alongside that, solve the NEET PYQs. But don't go behind it and spend hours and hours on concepts which you're not strong in. Because it's much better to utilize that time on things which you're already good at, so you're not going to make any sort of mistake in the NEET exam pertaining to that. In your 2 years, you might have prepared a lot of charts, a lot of short notes, a lot of mistake notebooks. I had done that too. I sometimes got frustrated by the fact that I was not finding time to go through all of them. Don't worry, the fact that you made those things is a big thing. And if you're not getting time, and if you feel like it'll be a waste of time to go through them, it's okay. But don't get frustrated over the fact that you can't read everything that you wrote down. At least you wrote it, and at least it helped you at that point of your time. It's not necessary for you to do things just for the sake of it. And when it comes to reading the NCERT over and over again, you might find that very robotic because you might have done it a lot of times. Don't try and read the entire chapter again and again. Rather go through certain concepts. Ones which you are finding hard to remember, which are very factual, go through those ones again and again. Go through concepts which you know are very probable to be asked in the NEET exam. Go through those and start grouping chapters. Like in a day, try to revise an entire section. So for example, if I take zoology, try to finish human physiology in half a day. Don't go through everything, go flipping through the pages of the NCERT. That is division. And then expect that in that mock test which you're giving, you will improve in this section. So go stepwise, go chunk-wise. And apart from the full tests which you're giving, if you want to solve certain worksheets regarding certain chapters, you can do that, you can go ahead. What I did during my time was I didn't find a lot of time. So I would go on YouTube and at 2x speed I would watch Parth Goyal's videos when he had solved the biohack on his own really fast. Even though it was not active recall, it did help me because I was finishing a lot of chapters, a huge chunk which I might have studied, revised in the morning. I would just be motivated and happy that I had finished a huge part. Apart from coming back to the objective focus, it is also necessary for you to get into the zone of how the NEET exam will be conducted. So there are a lot of rules and regulations, right? Like wear minimum clothes, don't wear a watch. So follow all of those guidelines as soon as possible. So as you slowly start to give mock tests, go to the center in that attire. And don't be worried about if you're doing things extra. It's not extra, you're just normalizing the things. Because on the NEET exam day, you need to be normal and your entire schedule should be normalized. And to do that, you should prepare for all of this beforehand. In the rush of trying to get everything back on track, don't ruin your sleep schedule. Because again, first few tests which I gave, I hardly slept at night. I would come back and revise as much as I could and then go the next day. And again, my marks were not good. So the reason for that was my sleep schedule, because my mom told me that start sleeping at 10, waking up at 6:30, it's okay. And the next day it was kind of improving. So make sure that your sleep is maintained. Utilize the rest of the time properly. Make sure that the amount of time you're giving is multiplied in analysis. Analysis is what matters, not studying. All in all of you NEET aspirants, you have really got this. Don't worry too much and don't think about the result. Just keep going and have faith in yourself, because if you've been consistent for 2 years, whatever you remember will come. And if you don't see yourself performing the best during this last month, it's okay. Because NEET tests you on everything, especially this last month, it tests your patience. I really sometimes used to feel that I had no one to take advice from, that there was no one who understood me and no one was suffering like me. But after I came here to college, I realized that people felt the same way during the last month. It's just not everyone talks openly about it. So everyone feels that way. It just matters how you go about it, and just keep going. If you have any doubts or if you want any sort of tips, please do ask me. I am more than happy to6help. But that's it for this video. Come back next week for more Time Out with AISIRI. Bye.